Right now, no, when I speak.
Celebrating the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi with events across the world and of course many events here in Turkey already. We call him Bapu, which means father, and he's seen as the father of the nation. We have all known him for the agitation that was launched by him for our independence, and you all know that there was a certain priority, a highest priority that he attached to the observance of truth. The movement that he launched was described as a satyagraha based on truth. And the other tenet that was intimately linked with the idea of truth was the understanding of non-violence. And these were, in a sense, integral to his life. What Mahatma Gandhi did was that he challenged the commonly held beliefs and various misconceptions. He was always rooted in our own tradition, but at the same time he had a very flexible approach in which he was open to learning from the external world, and the experiences that he came across became part of his movement and his struggle. But he realized that in order to achieve the objective, what was very necessary at the outset was empowerment. And he pursued a policy of Servodaya, which means empowerment for all, and this empowerment and upliftment of all. And for him, his understanding was that every human being is really a child of God. And in many ways, this led to the mass mobilization of the people of India during the freedom movement. And there was one in which, in this particular mass mobilization, there was really no distinction or divide. For him, these distinctions that people talk about of caste and religion did not exist, because in the pursuit of truth and nonviolence, these did not apply. He also understood that this was basically a tactic which was developed by the colonists at that point of time. And he immersed himself entirely in bringing about the realization of the objective. I remember visiting the Gandhi ashram in Noakhali in what's now Bangladesh. He was there on the eve of independence to prevent riots. And he was like a one-man army. While there were riots raging between communities, Noakhali was in the hands of Mahatma Gandhi alone, and he was able to maintain peace because of the very strong conviction that he had that this kind of violence was totally opposed to what the objective was. And I met Jharnadi. Jharnadi is the name of a person who is there in Noakhali. She was a young girl and she joined the movement in 1947 during the time of movement. She's in her 90s now. And the kind of enthusiasm that she had, the kind of inspiration that she had when she met the Mahatma is something that became her mission in life. And even today, Charnadi devotes her entire life to the community around her in trying to spread the message of Gandhi and to live the life that Gandhi would have wished to do. The other divide that people often talk about in India, which didn't really apply when Gandhiji saw them, was the one which is referred to as caste, which of course is not an Indian word at all. It's a Portuguese word, never existed in the Indian lexicon. But Gandhi did not believe in it, and in fact, when he was going around the country, he would often live with people whom he called Harijans, or who are often described as the so-called lower castes. And he believed that they were equally the children of God. And in order to go through his movement, Gandhi felt that it was necessary, on the one hand, to fight oppression and injustice that was meted out by the system. But at the same time, it was very important to maintain peace and harmony in society. And that is why this kind of balance that he tried to bring about became so much his life. The use of non-violence then for him became a positive force and was really a very powerful weapon. He was influenced by many, and he influenced many, and people in India still continue to regard him as somebody that was not just remarkable, but still has many lessons for us. Today, we are really delighted that we have with us for the second lecture of the Mahatma Gandhi series, Shobna Radhakrishna. She is a very eminent Gandhi scholar. She has been a practicing Gandhian, and she is going to speak to you about the transformational leadership of Mahatma. We will have another 3 lectures in which we will have Turkish dignitaries from different walks of life. And our objective is that by the 150th birthday, which is on the 2nd of October this year, we should be able to bring this all out in a little book of what Gandhi in the 21st century means to the people of Turkey. So thank you again for coming to this Gandhi lecture. I hope you enjoy Shobnaji's talks and thoughts today.
When a man named Gandhi, called the Mahatma, conceived and practiced successfully a new method of solving disputes between men by understanding and love instead of by hatred. This is the immortal life of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born in 1869 in a conservative Hindu family in Porbandar, Gujarat. He was, by his own standards, a mediocre student who did not shine in any particular field. His religious tolerance found its beginnings in his childhood, for his father had a wide circle of friends of other faiths, and the child Gandhi listened attentively to their discussions. These early impressions took firm hold on his eager mind and lasted his life. To India at the time, non-violence was not just a passive creed. It gave courage and hope to the people and above all, a voice. Like the light at dawn, Gandhi awoke a vast, slumbering nation. This great little man had an indomitable spirit. He was a gentleman with a faith that could and did move mountains. In the practice of those days, he was married young. His wife Kasturba, simple and unassuming, was silently to take upon herself a large measure of the strain of his turbulent life. Africa was the background for Gandhi's first attempts at social protest. After a 3-year course in England, where he trained for the bar, the young Gandhi began his legal career in Durban, Natal, on a brief from merchants of his native Gujarat. When Gandhi returned to India in 1914, he was little known outside the urban areas. It was at this time that he founded his ashram, his retreat at Ahmedabad on the banks of the river Sabarmati. Here he took up the cause of the poor indigo sharecroppers who had long been exploited by wealthy estate owners. Gandhi now immersed himself in the work of the Indian National Congress and introduced a new element to Indian politics, satyagraha, or non-violence, non-cooperation. This revolutionary concept did not depend on money for arms for its fulfillment. It was a weapon which Gandhi placed in the hands of his countrymen to stir them into action. His faith in its effectiveness inspired the movement toward self-rule. If violence broke out, Gandhi would immediately call off the agitation and go on a fast of self-purification. The historic Dandi March in 1930 was in peaceful defiance of the British government's monopoly on salt. Gandhi led a group of volunteers from his Sabarmati ashram on a 24-day trek to the coast and made salt from the sea at Dandi. The Dandi March had a startling effect. Hundreds of people all along the coast followed Gandhi's example. The lawbreakers remained peaceful, but not the keepers of the law. Mass arrests were made. Gandhi was arrested once again. But civil disobedience has proved its validity. It had won a great moral victory in the cause of freedom. Gandhi advised India's politicians to go out among the people, to learn their language, work among them. He urged them to revive spinning and weaving, the long-forgotten crafts of the peasant, and he took the method of non-violence, non-cooperation into the field of economics. Boycott all foreign goods. Buy only that is made in India, Swadeshi. He appealed to the people. He knew that, if carried out widely, this could slow down the wheels of the British industry and would give tremendous courage to Indian manufacture. Gandhi himself sat at the spinning wheel every day to demonstrate his identification with the simple peasant. He wore hand-spun, hand-woven khadi and gave self-respect to the poor by being one with them in dressing and living. Nowhere was this demonstrated more clearly than in his bold attempt to reform untouchability. He led his followers in doing work once reserved for the untouchables. He lived with them in their colonies so that all who wished to see him forced to break conventions. As a social reformer, Gandhi made women proud of their role in the making of New India. As a spokesman of his people, he worked out the terms of India's freedom with British viceroys and cabinet missions. The decision to partition the country grieved Gandhi. The end of British rule saw riots in many parts of the country. Gandhi spent the cold winter months of 1946-47. He was 77, walking barefoot from village to village, dispelling hate with love, reminding people that they belonged together. In January 1948, Gandhi went on his last fast in Delhi. He wanted a solemn pledge that no man would raise his arm against another. But there were extremists who were infuriated by Gandhi's preaching of tolerance. On the way to his evening prayer meeting on January 30, 1948, he was fatally shot by a militant young man.
वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहीजे पीड़ पराए जाने रे.
Gandhi's life is an epic of faith and endeavor. His faith was in truth, the ultimate reality of truth, and he endeavored to attain it through non-violence throughout his life. Got married, both of them were 13 years old, and in those times in our country we used to have child marriages, and Gandhi was one of the victims of the child marriage. So they were together since that day, and this is the 150th birth anniversary. I would like you to see some of the photographs of Kasturba, which will be the only ones that I'll have during the entire lecture presentation, because most of the photos I'll be showing of Mahatma Gandhi. They had 4 children, and Kasturba sacrificed so much to make Gandhi the Mahatma. It is the woman, the Matru Shakti, that was behind this man who rose to become the Mahatma. And on 22nd of February 1944, Kasturba's Punyatithi 75th death anniversary was observed, and I was on that day in Istanbul, and I spoke a lot about Kasturba Gandhi, because as a woman, her contribution in the entire freedom struggle and along with Gandhiji is remarkable. She was the first Satyagrahi, first woman Satyagrahi. In 1913, she led the Satyagraha, and after that, since then she led, though she was leading a very simple domestic life as well, but she equally participated in all the things that Gandhi was doing. So we must recognize her contribution, and along with Gandhi, but we must always talk about Kasturba, the woman who made him what he was.